The first story is that my golden child sister was suspended from school for bullying another girl, and my entitled parents canceled my birthday as a punishment for not teaching my sister morals. I severed my family ties, but my dad took my car hostage, and my grandparents gave me a gift, saying it was a family present. I called my grandparents, and they gave my family a reality check, and I spent the entire day acting like nothing was wrong because that's what my parents wanted. They wished me. I did know that I'm the golden child when it comes to taking responsibility for other people's mess. It was because of my sister Lally, who was suspended from school yesterday for bullying a girl in her grade. It seems that she and her friends had been harassing this poor girl about her weight and clothes to the point where the girl started crying in class. I should have seen this coming because Lily has been a nightmare for years, but my parents continue to support her every time she makes a mistake, giving her a slap on the wrist and moving on. This time, however, they chose to punish me instead of holding her accountable. After receiving the call from the school, my parents sat us down for one of those family meetings, and I thought perhaps they would actually hold her accountable. Lily sat there, sulking like the victim, rolling her eyes and barely interacting, but they gave her the same tired speech about how disappointed they were and how she was better than this. At the same time, they decided that my birthday plans were canceled because it wouldn't be appropriate to celebrate while Lily was being punished. They said that it wasn't the right time for a celebration and that we needed to show solidarity as a family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I have to pay the price for her behavior? They said, as they always do, that I should set an example for her, and that perhaps if I had been more involved in teaching her the right values, she wouldn't have done something so cruel. I couldn't even process what they were saying. They weren't just absolving her. They were blaming me, apparently, because I'm her older brother, so it's somehow my fault that she's a bully. Of course, they recited their favorite line, I need to be the bigger person. This is what I've heard my entire life. Why? I didn't say anything about the party being canceled, but my parents made it very clear that they didn't want anyone to know about Lily's suspension. They said it was for her sake, so she wouldn't get a bad reputation, like that ship hasn't already sailed. They claim that being a part of a family means making sacrifices for each other. But in our family, those sacrifices always seem to be mine. Fast forward to this morning, when my mom made pancakes for breakfast and gave me an awkward cheerful. When Lai and Emily texted me this morning to ask what time they should come over, I lied and told them I wasn't feeling well. Lam offered to come over anyhow, but I told him not to because I didn't want him or Emily to see how messed up things are at my house. The worst part is that my parents probably think they're doing the right thing, honestly believing that canceling my birthday is some kind of noble family-first gesture, like it's teaching Lily some grand lesson. But all they're really teaching her is that no matter what she does, someone else will always pay the price, and me, I'm just done. Cleaning up after her and accepting responsibility for her mistakes, such as breaking Dad's favorite watch and blaming me, got me grounded for 2 weeks, and when she threw a fit in public, I had to apologize to the cashier for the scene she caused when she refused to do her chores. This isn't just about my birthday. It's about all the times my parents have let her get away with something while holding me to a higher standard. I'm sitting in my room trying to figure out whether I'm overreacting, whether this isn't a big deal, or whether I should just accept it as usual. But honestly, I don't think I can anymore. I'm pissed, but I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. My parents canceled my birthday party because they felt it wouldn't feel right to celebrate while she's being punished. They're blaming me for not teaching her better values and expecting me to be the bigger person as usual. I wanted to take some time to explain why I'm so frustrated because this isn't just about one bad day. I don't want anyone to think I'm some spoilt brat who's furious over a party. Over the past few hours, I've come to realize that the reason I'm venting here isn't just because my parents canceled my birthday celebration. I want to share what happened when I tried to introduce my girlfriend Emily to my parents a few months ago. Emily and I have been together for almost a year, and she is amazing, funny, smart, and one of the most patient people I've ever met. She is also one of the only people who truly understands what my home life is like. I've opened up to her about how my parents treat me and Lily and how exhausted I feel trying to live up to their ridiculous expectations. She's been my rock through it all, and I honestly don't know what I'd do without her. Was really excited about the idea, saying she wanted to meet the people who are so important to me. If only she knew, and I didn't want to let her down, so I agreed to invite her over for dinner. I told my parents in advance, and they seemed okay with it at first, even though my mom tried to make something nice. However, as soon as Emily walked through the door, I could tell things were quickly getting worse. It started out subtle, with a few passive-aggressive remarks here and there. My mom said that it must be difficult for Emily's parents to support her dreams, and even though we're not wealthy by any means, they love to act as though they're better than everyone else. The worst part, though, was when Lily decided to join in. She wasn't even supposed to be at the table because she had been pouting in her room earlier because my parents had refused to buy her some new clothes online, but she came downstairs, popped herself in a chair, and began questioning Emily about her. When I confronted my parents about it, they dismissed it as just teenage banter and said I was overreacting. Emily hasn't returned to my house since. If I'm being honest, the way my parents treated Emily is a pretty accurate representation of what life is like here. Lily is the center of their universe, and no matter what she does, they never hold her accountable. They make excuses for her to bend over backwards to make her happy and expect the rest of the world to be like her. When we were younger, my parents worked a lot, and I was left in charge of Lily most of the time. At first, I didn't mind because I thought that's what big brothers do, but things quickly got out of control. If Lily threw a fit, I was blamed for not keeping her entertained, and if she broke something valuable, my parents thought I was the one who wasn't paying attention. At one point, she spilt juice all over my mom's favorite rug, and I was grounded for a week. As we grew older, it didn't stop. I guess this isn't just about my birthday being canceled. That was just the last straw. I'm writing this because I'm tired because I feel like I've spent my entire life being the bigger person while Lally gets away with everything. My parents expect me to be mature, responsible, and understanding, but they don't hold her to the same standard. With this whole suspension thing, they're blaming me for not teaching her better values. Lily knows exactly what she's doing. She knows that no matter how badly she behaves, our parents will always support her. I'm sitting in my girlfriend's room right now trying to process everything that's happened. It's been a long, exhausting day, but I'm finally leaving that house. I wasn't planning on leaving so soon, so I thought I'd just vent here, try to get through it like I always do, and move on. I don't know what I'm expecting by posting here, but it feels good to get all of this off my chest, if nothing else. If nothing else, at least someone out there knows what I'm going through. I spent the majority of the day upstairs in my room, trying to figure out what to do next, thinking about how unfair everything had been up until this point, how I was constantly blamed for Lily's mistakes, and how my parents had completely dismissed my feelings yet again. The more I thought about it, the more obvious it became that I couldn't stay there any longer, so I started packing. I grabbed a duffel bag and put in the necessities and a few sentimental items I couldn't leave behind. I didn't pack too much because I knew I'd figure out the rest later when I walked. My mom was in the kitchen, and my dad was in the living room watching TV. They both saw me immediately, so when I told them I was leaving, they didn't take me seriously. My mom kind of laughed like it was a joke and asked where I thought I was going. My dad looked annoyed, like I was being dramatic or something. But when they saw the bag, they both lost it. He told me I needed to man up and stop being childish, saying I shouldn't be this upset over something as trivial as a canceled birthday. I told them that I was tired of being the big person and that I couldn't stay in a house where I felt so unappreciated and dismissed. My mom tried to guilt-trip me by crying and asking how I could leave my family like this. She said that Lily was struggling and that I should be thinking about her rather than myself. That was the last straw for me. I told them that Lily wasn't my responsibility because I'm her brother, not her parent, and it's not my job to teach her right from wrong. That's the My mom was crying at this point, saying she couldn't believe I was leaving them, but I didn't back down, didn't let their guilt trip or anger control me. When I went to get my car keys, my dad stepped in and said I couldn't take the car now, some contact. The car was a gift from my grandparents when I turned 16, and I paid for half of it with my own savings and my grandparents'. I said that my birthday isn't even about the celebration, but rather about feeling like my family truly cares about. I reminded him that my parents didn't contribute anything to the other half, but he didn't care. He told me it didn't matter who paid for it, because the car was a family gift and belonged to the household instead of just me. I wasn't surprised, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I told him that the title was in my name and that it was legally mine, regardless of what he wanted to think. When he realized that he couldn't stop me, he just started yelling again, calling me petty, and saying that I was abusing the family. I ignored him, told him he could keep the car, and simply walked out the door without turning around. I called my girlfriend Emily as soon as I left, and she came to pick me up immediately. Her parents were already there. I'm in her room, and I'm aware of how things were at home. I called my grandparents and told them everything, and they were furious. My grandpa couldn't believe how my parents handled the situation, so he said he'd talk to them himself. I don't know what will happen, but my grandparents support me. I feel a range of emotions. I'm glad to be out of that house, but I'm also sad and angry. Part of me hoped that my parents would wake up and realize how much they've hurt me, but they just dumped me, making it clear that Lily will always be their top priority no matter what she does. I'm not sure what my next STS is yet, but I know I can't stay with Emily and her family forever. Additionally, I realize that I can't go back home at this time, so I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. Thank you to everyone who left a comment on my previous post. It helped me realize that I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I do. Hello everyone, it's been a few days since my last update, and I wanted to thank you all for your support and advice. To be honest, I didn't think my post would receive as much attention as it did, but reading your comments helped me stay sane during what has undoubtedly been one of the most difficult weeks of my life. A lot has happened since I left my parents' house, and I believe this will likely be my last update. I'm trying to move on now, but I wanted to share what happened when I returned to retrieve my car and my belongings, and how things ended with my parents the same night I left after I'd. As soon as I got settled at Emily's house, I received a call from my parents, who were furious and called me a backstabber for going behind their backs and telling my grandparents everything. They said I was immature, selfish, and pathetic for bringing other people into family business, and they said I should be ashamed of myself for the first time in my life. At one point in the conversation, they told me I could have the car back, but they were doing it to be done with me. He said they were officially disowning me, and he told me to come and get my car and my belongings as soon as possible because if I didn't, they would throw everything out. I guess there was a part of me that hoped things would get better eventually, but now I know that's not going to happen. That same night, I drove to my parents' house with Emily to get my car and my belongings. Emily stayed in the car because I didn't want her to deal with my parents' crap again. Once was enough for her. When I arrived, the atmosphere was cold. My mom wouldn't even look at me, and my dad just stared at me like I was a stranger. At first, they didn't say much, but as soon as I started, I didn't react, I didn't raise my voice, and I didn't try to argue. Instead, I packed my belongings as quickly as I could. They were trying to get under my skin, and I think that made them even angrier that I wasn't falling for their ruse. My dad said things like, "You think you're so grown up, but you're nothing without us." And my mom added a few digs. She kept talking about how I was leaving over nothing and how I was ruining the family pointlessly. When it came time to take the car, he even handed them to me. I just picked up the keys, packed the car, and went to the door before I left. I wanted to say something to my sister Lily one last time, but I wasn't sure if it would make a difference. So I knocked on her door and told her that I wanted to talk to her before I left. She opened the door, but I could hear her moving around inside. I told her that this wasn't her fault, even though I know my parents have used her as a rift between us for years, but I also told her that what she did was wrong, that her actions had consequences whether she wanted to believe it or not, and that she couldn't continue depending on our parents to protect her from the fallout. She should be held accountable for her actions, and I think that apologizing to the girl she bullied would be a good place to start. I'm not sure if what I said reached her, but I thought I heard her sobbing quietly on the other side of the door. She didn't say anything, so I left it at that. At the moment, I'm staying at Emily's house, looking for a new job. I had a part-time job, but I'll need more hours now that I've left home, and I'm already trying to find a place of my own. This whole situation has been one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, but I don't regret leaving for years because I felt like I had no choice but to stay and put up with everything because it was my duty to keep the peace. But now I know that's not true, and I'm finally taking the steps to create a life where I can be content and respected. Thank you to everyone who left comments on my previous posts. Your words made me realize that I wasn't alone in feeling this way. Knowing that strangers online understood my pain better than my own family meant more than I can express. Second story. The delusional stepdaughter and her boyfriend demanded that I watch their child by kicking out her cat and other grandchildren when she was at their house. They then accused me of neglecting the child on social media after hiring a new sitter they couldn't afford and now pleading with me to take their child again after selling their belongings. Office when I was in high school, they hired me after I graduated, and I had 30 service years before I turned 50. With 30 service years, you can get your full pension at any age. I worked until my first grandchild was born, and then I retired to work at a creche for grandparents. I have 5 grandsons, 8 males from my stepson, 7 males from my son, 5 females, and an 18-month-old male from my daughter. I babysat all of them without any problems or complaints, and I still keep the 18-month. When they made other child care arrangements, I told them that I understood their need to do what was best for their child and that I would not be offended. Some of the rules were almost understandable, but the majority were downright absurd, and none of it worked for me. For instance, I couldn't cook. I couldn't take the baby anywhere without their consent. I couldn't watch more than one other child while babysitting, and I had to give them the full name, address, and occupation of any potential visitors in advance so they could approve of the person being around their child. I had to know who they were and how long they would be there. My 9-year-old cat would have to be kept out of rooms where the baby would be, even when the baby was present. Wasn't there, I couldn't get another pet without their consent when she was 7 months pregnant, and they returned with updated rules in an effort to reach a compromise. I told them once more that their expectations wouldn't work with my life, and they should just find another creche. 2 days after my stepdaughter returned to work, she called to ask if I could keep Cullen the following day. I said yes, but I made it clear that I would provide safe, appropriate care based on my judgment, and blatantly rude to the point where I actually dreaded the start of the week on Sunday because of dealing with both of them, but especially his behavior. At the very least, he picked up Cullen, made a big deal out of partially undressing him, and said something like, "I guess we don't have any choice but to put up with this for now, or I guess you are happy that you won this." It went on for 4 months. I spoke to my stepdaughter about it multiple times, telling her that clearly they are very unhappy with the way I care for Colin and that they should really work on finding something else. In the meantime, he needed to be less vocal about it. It would get better for a day or two, and then he'd start. As Thanksgiving drew near, he became very vocal about his disapproval of me keeping all of my grandchildren over the break. I told them I would have them for a few days and requested that they make other plans if they had any problems. He was extremely rude when he picked up Colin on the first day that I had all of my GRS, but nothing happened, and everyone was content, clean, and fed and had a great day. He told Cullen that he was sorry that they had no choice but to leave him in a dangerous situation where he would be neglected. That evening, I called my stepdaughter, shared what had happened, and informed her that she had 2 weeks to make other plans and that she needed to drop. She asked me if I would keep Cullen until January because they found someone, but he couldn't start until then. I agreed, and on New Year's Day, a number of people sent me a screenshot of a post her boyfriend made on social media expressing how grateful he was that they could finally leave Cullen without worrying about his safety or neglect. He didn't specifically name me or accuse me of anything, but anyone who knows us knows I was keeping him, and the post implied plenty. I was just relieved that it was over. After learning that Cullen wasn't a suitable fit and that she couldn't bring him back on Monday, their new child care provider asked if I would start keeping him again. I told her that I was sorry for their predicament, but I really don't feel comfortable keeping him. My stepson added that I'd probably be more willing to let it go if it had been a conflict with my daughter's husband. My pension is about $4,000 per month, plus continuation of my health insurance, which is about 40% of our take-home income, if that matters. Refusing to resume watching, Cullen comments, brilliant. At T8719, baby daddy has a real problem with very controlling behavior there. He may also have a distorted view of you if your stepdaughter has complained about her evil stepmother before the baby was born until she needed you. That is Takorian giving 20-1. It's the father who isn't a good fit for the new childcare because he went on a dictatorial bender once he was paying and believed that meant he could demand anything he wanted. Teresis NTA, you shouldn't put yourself through this because Cullen will be taken care of. Her boyfriend doesn't act like a normal person. Your husband and stepson are free to provide free child care and put up with this treatment if it's important to them, but you've learned your lesson and don't let yourself end up in the same situation again. Blackbird 20 Fortune 6001, there's a reason the licensed creche won't keep him. It's the boyfriend. The liability alone would make me pause. He could ruin your lives. Hortense Daigle, especially after that Facebook post. No way, lawyer Ghana. We. Bruised SL Mark BF calls CPSF. That's why the creche bailed. Either because they saw the Facebook post or because the BF made a subtle threat disguised as a comment when picking up Colin, and they didn't want to risk any judgment. NCA update 1 day later. First, let me address the common belief that Amanda's boyfriend is intentionally sabotaging their childcare to trap her at home because they make about the same amount of money and can't afford to lose half of their income. I highly doubt that, and it would be heartbreaking for both him and me if he didn't come spend his summers and holidays with me. He's also a big help with the little ones when I have all of them, and when things get busy, I wouldn't be so petty as to make him and all of my other grandchildren suffer because of an adult argument. So I sort of asked around about why they were dropped off by their new sitter so quickly, and it turned out that they weren't.